I'm Teisha Bader with the JBS News Update for Tuesday, December the 30th, 2014. The United States said it does not support the final Palestinian draft resolution that was submitted yesterday to the United Nations Security Council, saying it was not constructive, that it would not advance peace, and does not provide for Israel's security. U.S. State Department spokesman Jeff Rathke said yesterday of the resolution, "We think it sets arbitrary deadlines for reaching a peace agreement and for Israel's withdrawal from the West Bank, and those are more likely to curtail useful negotiations than to bring them to a successful conclusion." Adding further, "We think that the resolution fails to account for Israel's legitimate security needs and the satisfaction of those needs, of course, integral to a sustainable settlement." As we reported to you, the resolution submitted yesterday included several amendments to the original draft submitted earlier this month, including an amendment calling for East Jerusalem to be the capital of a Palestinian state, as opposed to the original language which named Jerusalem as a shared capital between Israel and the Palestinians. The amended draft, like the original, also calls for peace negotiations with Israel within 1 year and Israeli withdrawal from the West Bank by the end of 2017. Israel Radio reports that IDF soldiers stationed near Bethlehem fired on a Palestinian vehicle this morning after someone inside the vehicle threw an explosive at the soldiers. No soldiers were injured. Palestinian reports say that 2 inside the vehicle were wounded, a 17-year-old boy who sustained serious injuries and a 19-year-old who was lightly wounded. The IDF is investigating. The Anti-Defamation League released their list of the issues most affecting the Jewish world in 2014. They include the rise of anti-Semitism across the globe and the fatal shootings at the Jewish Center and Senior Living Center in Kansas by white supremacist F. Glenn Miller back in April, and Israel fighting back against Hamas terror during this summer's Operation Protective Edge. ADL National Director Abe Foxman said it was a difficult year for the Jewish people as we witnessed Israel coming under attack repeatedly, both in the form of a campaign of terror waged by missiles and through tunnels, as well as attacks to its very legitimacy. Foxman noted the rise of anti-Semitism in Europe in particular and the protests that broke out there during Operation Protective Edge, which he said brought even more anti-Semitism to the surface. The Chicago Sun-Times reported hateful anti-Semitic graffiti was found Sunday morning on a synagogue and other buildings in a largely Jewish area of West Rogers Park. Curse words, racial slurs, and a Star of David were among the graffiti found on Congregation Ateret Yehoshua in Chicago and over 10 other buildings and residential garages. Regional Director of the Anti-Defamation League of the Chicago Upper Midwest region, Lonnie Nassiter, called the graffiti despicable. Nassiter said this act reflects complete disregard for sacred Jewish institutions and individuals' homes. Nassiter thanked the Chicago Police Department for taking the incident seriously and investigating it as a possible hate crime. Hundreds of people attended a memorial mass in Zagreb, Croatia on Sunday for a man called one of Europe's biggest mass murderers. Ante Pavelic headed the independent state of Croatia during World War II, where tens of thousands of Jews and hundreds of thousands of Serbs were murdered under his fascist regime, which was allied with Nazi Germany. The Simon Wiesenthal Center denounced the memorial for Pavelic. Its chief Nazi hunter, Dr. Ephraim Zuroff, who heads the center's branch in Jerusalem, said it was hard to believe that such a ceremony took place in the capital of a member of the European Union. Zuroff said the ceremony was an insult to the memory of Pavelic's hundreds of thousands of innocent victims. Pavelic survived the war and made his way to Argentina. He died in 1957. There's a new app that helps children get a sense of what it's like to discover archaeological treasures in Israel. The Israeli Antiquities Authority released the free app for iPhones and iPads called Dig Quest. It features 2 simulated dig sites, a Roman period mosaic found in Lod, and the Dead Sea Scrolls in Qumran. The Lod mosaic is now touring the world in museums in the U.S. and Europe, and children in Israel can use it when they come and visit the exhibit in the city of Lod. The IAA spokesperson said the Antiquities Authority developed DigQuest as part of the overall mission of the IAA to make available and accessible to audiences around the world the archaeological treasures of Eretz Israel. And turning now to our programming for tonight, Tuesday, December the 30th, at 8 o'clock, lecturer and author Rabbi Joseph Telushkin sits with the editor and publisher of the Jewish Week, Gary Rosenblatt, to talk about Telushkin's book, Rebbe, The Life and Teachings of Menachem M. Schneerson. That's from Lincoln Square Synagogue in New York City. And then at 9 tonight, Mark Golub sits down with rabbi and psychiatrist Abraham Twersky. That's tonight on JBS and jbstv.org. And that's the JBS News Update for Tuesday, December the 30th, 2014. I'm Teisha Bader.